It is now my pleasure to turn the webcast over to John Richards, Sales Manager, Treasury Management. Mr. Richards, you may begin.
Thank you, Beth. Appreciate that. And thank you, everyone, for taking time this morning to be with us. My name is John Richards. I've been with Zions Bank for almost 15 years, and I've spent a few years in the online banking channel, but the last 8 to 10 years in cash management or treasury management. In treasury management, what we do is specialize in providing products and services to our commercial clients that maximize efficiencies with things like cash flow, payables, receivables, and short-term investments. Within the last few years, one of our primary focuses for our commercial clients has been risk management and how we can help our customers protect themselves and continue to manage their financial transactions in a safe environment. So I'm excited to be with you today and share some of the things that we've learned over the past few years that we hope will help you as business owners to protect yourselves and your companies from fraudulent transactions and from fraudsters. So let's begin. As we are all aware, we know that fraud is on the rise, and we see stories almost every day in the news of fraudulent transactions or breaches that are happening. In today's world with technology and information being so readily available, criminals are using more sophisticated methods to attack businesses. This has caused the number of fraudulent attempts and the total losses from fraud to spike, especially within the last 3 to 5 years. It's a very lucrative and easy business to get into, and unfortunately, many of us are easy targets. One of the misconceptions that's out in the marketplace is that fraud only happens with larger corporations, and as you'll see as we get into that, into this a little bit more, that's not necessarily true. Much of what I'll present today and what you'll hear will not be new information for you. We want you to know that the best way to fight fraud is to be educated and to stay informed. The more you know and the more your employees know, the better off you're going to be, and the more you'll be able to protect yourselves against any kind of fraudster or criminal activity within your financial platforms. Like I said, fraud is not just something that affects large organizations. 61% of organizations have experienced some type of fraud or attempted fraud. This was a statistic we pulled from the Association of Financial Professionals back in 2012. And I would suggest that number has probably gone up over the last 2 years especially. So a lot of times as we talk to our smaller businesses, they're not as concerned about fraud, thinking that fraud will not be something that they run into, or fraudsters are not trying to go after their business. But in actuality, they're trying to go after everybody. Anywhere there's an easy target, that's what they're trying to attack. So it's very important that all businesses, whether large or small, understand what types of fraud are out there, what methods are being used, and how they protect themselves against that. So it's very important that you understand you're not safe from those criminals that are out there trying to steal your money. So let's talk a little bit about the types of fraud affecting businesses. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because we could spend hours and hours talking about the different experiences that we've had or we've seen in the marketplace. I think it's important you understand how fraud occurs, but what is truly important for you is that you understand what you do to protect yourselves against fraud and against these fraudsters. So one of the methods that we've seen, and it's become more common within the last few years, is wire fraud. Wire fraud happens both online and offline, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the experiences that we've seen with wire fraud. Some of the ways that you can be frauded by through the wire payment platform. Employees can create fake vendors or vendor accounts to pay themselves and then hide those transactions through the reconciliation process. You may have a situation where an outsider poses as your vendor and tries to get you to send a payment. And again, that has happened over and over with some of our other companies. What we're seeing now more than anything is online fraud, where an employee of an organization opens an email with an attachment. That attachment has some kind of malware within it that is then loaded to their computer. That malware then will search and watch that employee's activity over a period of time, and as they see if that employee is using, let's say, Zions Bank to initiate an online wire payment, They will then send a message back to that employee that their login did not work, that they needed to log in again, and they were trying to get information on the username and password. And they now have access to that system from that employee, and they're able to initiate wires from that company's online system to an account that is theirs outside of typically the United States, whether it's in Asia or somewhere outside of the timeline that we're currently in today, and that's how they get their money. So it's really easy for them, if they can get malware onto a computer, to track the activity that's happening by that user and then trying to expose that to get into online systems. Some of the other things that we're seeing is what they refer to as social engineering. And this is listed on the slide here, but we have a lot of people who become very familiar with the company, the C-level executives of those companies, and how they interact with their employees as well as with their financial relationships. They're then using that information to make a phone call to the company saying, hey, I work with the executive. We're a vendor that we've been working with you for a number of years. I've talked to the CEO, and he said that he would like to make a payment to my account. He's given approval for that, and then the employee goes ahead and initiates the wire, and that wire is then approved and sent out, and before the company realizes that the money's gone, and there's not a whole lot they can do about it. So wire fraud is certainly on the uptick, and you have to make sure that you're very cautious about how you're initiating wires, what your processes and procedures are, and that you're protecting yourselves from these types of situations in the future. Next is credit card fraud, something that we hear much about in the news. Again, credit card fraud can occur both online and offline. A lot of credit card fraud is typically with employees who are using credit cards in the name of a business for fraudulent activities, and then they disguise those activities as legitimate business expenses, and again can manipulate expense reports or ask to be reimbursed for items that may look legitimate but are not legitimate in the end. Other things that may occur is you may have outsiders who are watching mail and mailboxes, and they'll steal applications. They'll submit the applications in the name of an individual or a business, and then they'll use those cards for fraudulent items. Some of the other things that you may see with credit card fraud are these breaches that are occurring, and many are with larger organizations, primarily because those are the ones that we hear about in the news. Typically, these are a result, again, of malware, where an employee opens an attachment that has malware included. They're able to get into the systems of the company and collect sensitive information from credit card transactions, and then they go ahead and sell that information to the market, or they use that information to charge on those particular credit cards. It's a very difficult situation. It's an expensive situation for both the individuals and the companies as well as the financial institutions who have issued those cards. And so, again, with the activity around credit cards, there's been a big uptick. It's something that we're very concerned about, and it's something that you as business owners and us as a bank need to make sure that we're protecting ourselves and our customers from any kind of outside eyes looking into our systems. The next and probably most common over the last years has been with check fraud and also with ACH fraud. For those of you that may not be aware, ACH is an electronic funds transfer. It's the ability for companies to send electronic payments to their customers or employees, or for the ability to pull money from customers for accounts payable and accounts receivable. Again, these are things that are very common that you're aware of, both with online and offline fraud. The most common fraud we see with checks come from employees. Employees will typically steal company checks and try to pay themselves through fake accounts. They may use the check that was given to them for for their payroll, and they try to wash or copy that check, and then and try to attempt to gain access into their companies and try to get more money than they typically would deserve, or to get fraudulent money completely. So checks certainly is a way that fraudsters have used over the years to try and fraud companies and to make money. ACH now becoming more popular and common, being used by a lot more of our small and large organizations and businesses. Fraudsters are now looking at ways that they're trying to use the ACH payment system to, again, steal money from companies and try to get those payments to go to accounts that are not legitimate. You can see that in 2012 alone, about 22 billion ACH transactions were processed, and that's representing an estimated total of $144 trillion. So this is a prime target for fraudsters to look for ways to try and get money. And again, the way that we protect ourselves from that is being educated and making sure that we have the proper systems and policies and procedures in place, and that's something that we'll talk about here in just a minute. In 2012 alone, the value of fraudulent third-party checks and ACH transactions totaled $3.3 billion. And you can see that this is a very significant amount. On average, we see that the average amount of fraud that happens between these different types of payment methods is typically around $20,000 per incident. Obviously, some are much larger, some much smaller, but if you can imagine being a business owner and having to write off $20,000, that's a very significant hit to the business and something that can be devastating. And so it's important, again, like I've said, that you understand that these are different methods used and different payment portals that are used for fraudsters to try and take your hard-earned money. So what I'd really like to spend the bulk of the time on is the solutions for you as business owners and how you protect yourself from fraudsters coming in. We've got a checklist that we'll provide to you after the fact that will give you some ideas to follow and some things to look at and some things to implement for your business to make sure that you're well protected. These are just easy, basic, and free measures that will help you safeguard your business. I think probably the most important thing here for you is education. As long as you understand what's available to you and how you protect yourself and you stay educated, you'll be better off than those companies that don't have that same information or don't follow the same processes. So as a financial institution, one of the things that we encourage for our customers that are using our online payment systems, whether it's ACH or with wires, is dual control. Dual control is basically a separation of duties for employees, meaning that one individual who would originate an ACH or a wire payment would not be able to go in and approve that same wire or ACH payment to be sent out from the company. And what this does is it protects you from, one, having an employee who may be setting up accounts that are not legitimate and trying to send money out without anyone being aware, or two, having some kind of malware in your systems that would be able to recognize an employee's keystroke logging and try to get into that system. The more control you put into place, the more you separate your duties of financial reporting, the better off you're going to be and the less likely you are to have any kind of fraud that's attempted in your system. Another thing that's very important is daily reviews of your accounts, your balances, and trying to reconcile those accounts. One of the examples that I mentioned with wire fraud is somebody getting into a system and sending that wire to an Asian country. It wasn't until a few days had passed before the company had realized that there was a wire sent out to a fraudulent account, and at that point there was really nothing they could do because the wire had already been sent. So if you as a business owner are spending time on a daily basis reviewing your accounts and your balances and trying to reconcile those accounts, you're going to catch anything that may look suspicious. And if there are attempts for fraud, it's more likely you're going to track those down, and we'll be able to react as a bank much more quickly and try to help you recover those funds. So it's important that you keep on top of your transactions and your balances on a daily basis. it's important that that you follow and implement formal procedures to destroy secure documentation. If you're taking payments from customers with invoices, and those invoices include customer-sensitive information, whether it's account numbers or routing numbers or credit card information, it's important that you either have a secure process in place to store that information, or that you take caution to destroy that information so you're not held liable if anything were to happen. That's something that we encourage our customers with this, is to make sure that they have policies around these processes and that they educate their employees on what those policies are. The last thing you want is to have customer-sensitive information out where anybody can access it, and that you could be blamed for, making that information readily available and being the cause of some of this fraud to occur. So it's very important that you're destroying documents when appropriate, or that you have procedures in place that are securing those documents and keeping them protected. With the ACH and wire transfer limits, with most banks and their online systems where they give you access to do ACH and wire origination, they also give you the ability to set limits either for the company or the account level, or even at the employee or user level. And this is crucial. It takes a little more time in the beginning to set up, but this is crucial. Making sure that appropriate people have the right limits and that you're not exposing yourself to any undue concern or potential fraud by those employees or by somebody that's able to get into the system. This also gives you the ability to set templates for those particular accounts or for those vendors that you're paying. And again, this just sets a structure around your payment processes to make you more secure and to make sure you're protected. Employee credentials, this is something where you have the ability to set and enable entitlements for each of your users, giving them access to the appropriate information, whether it be accounts or transactions or companies. I think it's not fair to you as a business owner to just give full access to all of your accounts and to all of the transactions, to all the payment systems, to all of your employees. That's just not a smart procedure to follow. And so it's important that you set these credentials, that you set user entitlement levels, and that you make sure that you're giving appropriate access to those employees for the accounts and for their responsibilities that they have. This is very common in making sure that you're installing your antivirus, anti-malware, anti-spyware, and then we also have some additional software that I will talk about here in a few minutes that help protect you from any outside eyes peeking in. But it's important that you're making sure these are updated, that you actually have the software to protect you from these viruses that are out there, and that you're updating those and keeping them consistent. And then the use of firewalls. Firewalls are important to keep people out, and it's important that your firewalls are up to date and that they're being watched closely, and that they're there to protect you from any outside intrusion coming in. This may seem obvious to you, but updating operating systems, it's important that you as a business and an individual make sure your systems are updated on a regular basis. One of the tricks that fraudsters will use is they will use the internet and technology to identify holes in operating systems, bugs that have been identified. They'll go out and search for computers that have not updated their operating systems and use those bugs to gain access. So this is a very simple task, one that can be automated, but one that's very, very important. Setting strict passwords as a requirement for your employees is important. Making sure that employees are not using common things like birthdays or social security numbers, addresses, names of family members, but they're using difficult passwords that are difficult for those fraudsters to try to crack. It's also important that they don't use the same password for every system that they need access to. Once a fraudster gains access to one, it's much easier for them to gain access to others if you're using the same password. So we recommend that multiple passwords are being used, and that employees and business owners are cautious around the types of passwords that are required. It's also probably a good and best practice to make sure that those passwords are being changed on a regular basis. In the financial industry, where we're so heavily regulated, we're required to change our passwords for all of our systems within a 30 to a 45 to a 60-day time period. And while that can be challenging to remember, it provides protection and security, and I think it's very important to do. So setting some kind of policy, making sure that your employees are changing their passwords on a regular basis is going to help protect from anybody trying to get into the system. One of the things that's not done very often that we recommend to our customers is holding a regular training for employees, letting them know that fraud is out there, letting them know that they really are the gateway in many cases to fraud occurring. Most of the fraud that happens online happens because an employee opens an email and innocently clicks on a link or an attachment, which then brings malware into the system and attacks the entire company. So using time on a regular basis to train your employees is crucial, and making sure that they understand the policies and procedures are in place is also, I think, very important. You want them to be your frontline protection, and it's important that they understand that and that they're diligent in doing so. This goes with the previous one. Never download, install files from unknown sources. If you get an email from somebody that you don't recognize and it has you wanting to click on a link or an attachment, the best thing for you to do is throw that thing away. If there is contact information, it would probably be wise to try to reach out to them to see if you can legitimize the email communication and then decide whether you should click on that link or download the file. Don't click on web ads or pop-ups. Again, these are hotbeds for malware and spyware, for viruses, and so you try to avoid those at all costs. As a business, if you can implement security measures that take some of those things away from your employees, that's also a great thing to try to do. And don't respond to unsolicited emails or open their links. These all kind of go together. Just make sure that your employees understand that if there's outside communication coming in and they don't recognize who that email is coming from, they should avoid it. They should immediately send it up to their IT group to look at it, but certainly they should not be opening that email or going to the links or the attachments that are included. So one of the things that's very important to us at Zions Bank is to make sure that our customers are protected from fraud. And we can't come in and do everything to help this with our customers, so we try to do it through education and then also through providing products and services that help protect against these types of situations that we've discussed earlier. Now, one of the products that we have that helps with this is credit card processing. If you'll remember looking at that ACH and the check fraud slide, most of the fraud that occurs, and in very large dollar volumes, is done through checks, accepting checks and writing checks. Checks are easy to manipulate and distill, and so it's something that that fraudsters use as a common practice to try to get their money. So merchant services is a great way for companies to try to eliminate some of the paper and to eliminate some of the hands that are handling transactions. At Zions Bank, we have a offering with merchant services. It gives you the ability to accept credit card payments, whether it's by retail, in person, over the phone, through the internet, or you have e-commerce solutions. Those are things that we can provide and match up to. We have very competitive processing rates. But the thing that's nice about credit card processing, and this doesn't apply just to Zions Bank's offering, but it's to other credit card processing offerings, they're very diligent to make sure that you're PCI compliant. And PCI is basically the regulation that states that businesses need to do all they can to protect customer information. And customers, depending on how they take credit cards and how many transactions they take, they have to be PCI compliant, ensuring that they're not keeping account numbers, credit card information on hand, and making it easily accessible for outsiders. So we provide some education and some options and some products and services around PCI compliance that are there to protect you as a business. Also included is breach coverage. If you sign up for breach coverage, this is similar to insurance for credit card processing. If something happens and there is a breach, this breach coverage will cover that breach and the losses that occur, similar to an insurance policy. And so some other options for you as you take credit card processing. The thing that's most important to us is that we know who our customers are, that our customers are protected and secure. One of the things about credit card processing is we go through an underwriting process from the bank perspective, so we understand who those customers are, and it's probably good for you to do the same with your customers. So you always know who your customers are and who you're dealing with on a daily basis. For those of you on the call, we're extending a special offer if you have interest in merchant services. Whether you're new to merchant services or you have an account now and would be interested in seeing what Zions Bank has to offer, we'd certainly be very interested in having a conversation with you and seeing how we can help. But for those of you today on the call, we're extending a special offer of a $100 credit towards either fees or equipment on a merchant account. And I'm going to have this link pushed out to you for reference so you can see where you need to go and where that coupon is available. And there's contact information there, so if you are interested, you certainly can reach out to Zions Bank and we'll have somebody give you a call for further discussion. Another security product in the marketplace is Trusteer Rapport, which comes from IBM Security. Trusteer Rapport is a software that can help secure your browser from malware attacks and from others having eyes on your accounts. This is something that Zions Bank is offering to all of our customers, and it's accessible, and you can download it by going to zionsbank.com. And again, we'll push out this link. You'll see a pop-up, I think, show up that will have information directly to this link that's on the screen here. But Rapport, what it does is it creates a secure connection between you and your accounts at Zions Bank, ensuring that there aren't any outside eyes peeking in. This is something that will go hand in hand with the firewalls and other security measures that you have in place. It just adds to the security that's there. And what it does for us is it gives us the ability to feel secure about the payments and the people that are logging into the account. We know that there's a secure connection. It also gives us eyes to see if there is any malware associated with that account or computer. And if there is, we can reach out to that individual or to that company and let them know that we believe there is malware on the computer, that it has been infected, and that action needs to take place. It also gives us the ability to see if we need to shut down a user temporarily, so we can contact the business and make sure that everything is okay on their end, that nobody is accessing the information without approval or authority, and gives us the ability to set up a new user and clean that computer up if we need to. So there are a lot of great results from this type of product. And whether you're with Zions Bank or any other financial institution, this should be something that they have available to you, and we recommend that you download it. Because it comes from IBM, it's not only applicable just to Zions Bank and to our website, but any website that's currently working with IBM. So many of the payment pages that you see out there, the shopping carts, if they're tied in with Trusteer Rapport, the product that you download from Zions Bank will work with those web pages as well and secure that page so there can't be any prying eyes looking in. So it's a free product. There's no cost to it. We're just concerned about your security and protection, and so we're trying to do what we can to help. This is one of those products that we would recommend to any business owner and even to any individual for that matter. Some of you may or may not be aware of Positive Pay. This is a product that banks have been offering for quite some time. But it's becoming more and more common because of the uptick in fraud. Positive Pay is a product that allows you to control any transaction that comes into your account, whether it be check or ACH. The way that Positive Pay works is when you write checks as a business owner, you send that information from the check to Zions Bank. So it would be check number, amount. You can even include who you're paying and the date. And we load that information into our system. As a check comes to be cleared through the account, we match the information from that check that's being processed to the information that you provided to us as a business owner. And if there's something that doesn't match or doesn't seem right, we then kick it out into our positive pay system, which we give you access to. And it allows you to go in and look at the image of the check and to see if it's legitimate or not, and then tell us whether it should be paid or returned. So you now, as a business owner, have complete control over checks and what's clearing your account by all the checks that you're writing, making sure that there's not somebody out there taking your checks and washing them, or taking checks and recreating them and trying to cash them on your account. So it's very, very important. If you're a company that writes 5 checks, 10 checks, 1,000 checks, or 10,000 checks, positive pay gives you complete control over that process and peace of mind. Now, the other piece that comes with positive pay is ACH positive pay. And ACH positive pay works very similarly. When somebody comes into your account to try to pull money, whether it's a utility company, whether it's a cell phone company or a vendor that you've given approval to come in and pull monthly or regular payments from, when that payment comes into your account, you are notified, and you can decide whether that payment should be received and accepted or if it should be rejected, giving you complete control over what transactions are coming and trying to pull money from your accounts. Now, this is typically where fraud occurs with ACH. ACH gives individuals or companies the ability to go out and pull money using an account number and routing number. And they may make a mistake, or it may be a fraudster who has somehow gained access to your account number and routing number information, and they're going to try to come in and pull that information. So ACH positive pay actually eliminates that concern for you, giving you complete control over those types of transactions. You may say this might be a lot of work. Why would I want to do something like that? Well, the nice thing about positive pay is it allows you to set filters. So when you get the first payment coming in from your utility company, you can memorize who that transaction came from in the system and tell the system that any payment going forward from that company that comes in, approve automatically, or approve it up to a certain dollar amount, or approve it to a certain date. But it gives you the ability to set those thresholds and those filters in place, so it eliminates the work that you have to do going forward. So great product. Again, we're going to throw some information out there for you about positive pay and ACH positive pay, as well as a white paper on ACH fraud. It gives you more information on how to protect yourselves and your businesses from fraudsters and the fraudulent transactions that are occurring out on the marketplace. Now, I would say there's a whole lot more that we could talk about concerning fraud and what banks try to do to protect us from fraudulent activity and to also protect our customers from that same type of activity. But we just don't have enough time to cover that today. So I would encourage you, if you have any further questions or concerns or would like to sit down with a representative from Zions Bank, we certainly would be happy to do that. If you're not with Zions Bank, I would encourage you to sit down with a representative from your current financial institution and talk about security, understanding what opportunities are out there for you to make sure your businesses are secure, and seeing what they have to offer to help you. So with that, we'll go ahead and close this out and open it up to questions and answers if there are any. Again, if you have any questions or answers, you can certainly go online, and I think Beth will step in and talk through that again and let you know how to do it.
And ladies and gentlemen, to submit a web question, click on the green Q&A icon on the lower left-hand side of your screen, type your question in the open area, and then select Ask to submit.
Do we have any questions? Let's see. So I have a question here. Will Trusteer Rapport be available for iOS Macintosh users? It is available for Macintosh users, and certainly something that if you're having issues, we can work through. It does work better with your PC operating systems, but certainly something that we can help you through if you do have a Mac and would be interested in installing that onto that computer. The next question, will the slides be available after the session to give to other employees? Absolutely. We'll provide these slides to you. You're certainly welcome to share those with anyone that you feel might benefit from them. The last question I have here is, how much is positive pay? That's a very good question. Positive pay, we have a number of different packages that are available depending on how many accounts are being used, how many transactions are running through those accounts, and then what options you want us to track. It's actually a relatively inexpensive product at Zions Bank. We've kind of changed the way we offer this out in the marketplace to make sure that it's affordable for our customers. And so my recommendation there to you would be to reach out to your Zions Bank representative and have a discussion, and they can let you know what package would best fit your needs and can provide you with pricing options at that point. I don't see any other questions that are out there. With that, Beth and Mario, I'll conclude. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We appreciate your time and for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us. I hope this was helpful. If there are any future questions or concerns, please let us know. We'd be happy to have discussions and conversations with you about it.
And ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you again for joining us. This does conclude today's webcast. You may now disconnect.